I'm glad you're here at Beyond 60 Stories, where every life has a story to tell. When a real connection begins, men start looking at places most women never think about. Not the obvious ones, not the parts women carefully prepare, worry over, or try to highlight, but quieter areas that reveal something far deeper than physical attraction. What's surprising is that many women go through their entire lives without noticing these signals, simply because they've been taught to look in the wrong places. Connection after 60 doesn't behave the way it did in youth. It doesn't announce itself loudly or rush forward. It moves slowly, almost cautiously. When a man feels genuine intimacy forming, his gaze changes. It softens, it lingers. His eyes are no longer chasing desire but measuring something more meaningful. He's not asking if you're attractive. He's asking if this feeling is real, if it's safe, if it's worth opening himself again. Before we talk about the first place his eyes naturally go when this kind of connection starts to build, there's something important to understand. Men don't look the same when intimacy begins. Their eyes stop scanning. They stop hunting. Instead, they begin searching with care, holding their gaze a little longer as if they're listening with their eyes. And once you see this shift, you can't unsee it. If reflections like this speak to you, take a quiet moment to like this video and subscribe to Beyond 60 Stories. This channel is a place for honest conversations about love, connection, and life as it truly unfolds with age. And with that understanding in mind, let's begin with the very first place his eyes go when attraction quietly takes hold. Thing number 1. Her hands. A small detail often reveals itself in the most ordinary moments. Sitting across from someone at a quiet diner, waiting for coffee to cool, hands are usually the first thing we notice, without realizing we're noticing at all. They rest on the table, circle the rim of a mug, fold into one another, or move gently as a story unfolds. For many people over 60, these moments feel familiar. Conversations now happen in softer spaces during slower mornings, over meals where no one is rushing anywhere, and in these moments hands speak long before words ever do. For a man, hands become the earliest place connection begins to register, not because of appearance, but because hands reveal truth. A relaxed hand tells a different story than one held tight. Open palms feel different from fingers curled inward. When a woman feels at ease, her hands tend to move naturally, matching the rhythm of her voice. She reaches for her glass without hesitation, touches a napkin absent-mindedly, rests her hand where it feels comfortable rather than where she thinks it should be. These small movements feel honest, unguarded, and alive. Many women don't realize how closely these details are observed, especially later in life. By this age, men have learned to read beyond surface charm. They've been through marriages, separations, illnesses, and losses. They've learned that safety matters more than excitement, so his eyes return again and again to her hands, quietly reading the subtle shifts. Does her grip tighten when certain topics come up? Do her fingers relax as the conversation deepens? Do her hands stay open as the moment stretches? Or do they pull back when closeness appears? This is where a man answers an important question without consciously asking it. Is this moment safe? Is this woman present? Is there room here for something real to exist without pressure? Hands tell him whether the connection can settle or whether it needs to stay cautious, and he watches not once but repeatedly, because hands change as emotions change, sometimes within seconds. For many people over 60, this feels deeply relatable. Life has taught you that words don't always tell the truth, but the body often does. Hands reveal what the heart hasn't yet put into language, and before a man ever looks anywhere else, this is where he begins to listen. And after his eyes finish reading the quiet language in her hands, something shifts. Attention doesn't disappear. It rises, drawn toward a place where even the smallest change can confirm everything he has been sensing so far. Thing number 2, her face and expression. The gaze doesn't stay low for long. After reading what her hands reveal, his attention naturally moves upward, settling on her face. This is where things become more delicate and far more telling. For people over 60, faces carry history. Lines formed by laughter, worry, grief, and resilience all live there quietly. And men who have lived long enough know how much truth a face can hold. In everyday moments, this happens without drama. Sitting side by side during a family visit, listening to grandchildren talk over each other, standing in line at the pharmacy, sharing a small smile after a long wait, or talking across the kitchen counter while evening light settles in through the window. In these moments, a man isn't searching for beauty the way he once might have decades ago. He's searching for emotional permission. A signal that says, "You can be here. You don't need to guard yourself." He notices whether her expression softens as the conversation deepens or tightens, the moment something personal surfaces. He senses if her eyes are warm or alert, present or politely distant. A face can look engaged while the heart stays closed, and men who've loved and lost before recognize the difference. They've learned that attraction without emotional safety leads nowhere peaceful. Even a brief pause matters. A held glance that lasts just a little longer than expected can shift the nervous system before the mind catches up. It's not about staring, it's about presence. Is she truly listening, or simply waiting to respond? Is the smile genuine, reaching the eyes, or carefully maintained? These details register quickly, quietly, and deeply. For many women, especially later in life, there's a habit of managing expressions. Years of responsibility, caretaking, and self-protection can turn the face into a mask of composure. Men see this, and while composure can be admirable, it doesn't invite closeness. A softened expression, even a vulnerable one, tells him that connection is allowed to breathe here. This moment is often misunderstood. Women may believe confidence or polish is what holds attention, but in reality it's emotional availability that anchors his gaze. A face that reflects real feeling, even gently, communicates more than perfection ever could. If this resonates with your own experiences, take a moment to share in the comments whether you've ever noticed how expressions change the energy of a conversation. As his attention absorbs what her expression reveals, the gaze doesn't stop. It drifts subtly downward toward a place where words and closeness quietly meet. Thing number 3. Her lips. After reading her expression, his gaze shifts again, almost without intention. It doesn't rush. It doesn't announce itself. It simply moves downward, settling on her lips in a way that feels instinctive rather than deliberate. For many people over 60, this moment feels familiar, even if it's rarely spoken about. Lips carry a quiet weight at this stage of life. They are no longer just a symbol of youth or flirtation, but a place where connection and restraint meet in everyday settings. This happens gently during a conversation at the kitchen table while stories unfold slowly and pauses feel comfortable. While sitting in the car before turning the engine on, neither person was quite ready to end the moment, or during a walk where words come and go and silence feels safe. In these moments, a man isn't thinking about passion the way movies portray it. His body is responding to something subtler. Lips represent closeness, the bridge between speaking and being held between thought and touch. What draws his attention isn't shape or color but tension. Relaxed lips suggest openness, a natural softness that comes from comfort rather than intention. Lips that press tightly together or hold tension signal restraint, not rejection but caution. Men who have lived through heartbreak understand this language well. They've learned that desire doesn't push forward without consent from the body itself. This is often where attraction quietly deepens, not loudly, not urgently. A man may not even realize why his attention lingers here, only that something inside him has shifted. The nervous system responds before logic has time to intervene. Breathing slows, awareness sharpens. The moment feels heavier, fuller, even if nothing outward changes. For many women later in life, this can feel surprising. There's a belief that desire fades, that attraction becomes intellectual or sentimental only, but the body doesn't forget how to recognize connection. It simply expresses it differently, more slowly, with more care. Lips become a signal not just of intimacy but of trust, of whether closeness would feel welcome rather than disruptive. This stage isn't about action. It's about sensing the body, quietly asking whether it's safe to want, to feel, to lean in emotionally as well as physically. As attention settles and deepens, instinct begins to guide the gaze away from expression and closeness toward a place where desire no longer feels like thought, but like something rooted in the body itself. Thing number 4. Her waist and hips. The focus shifts lower, guided by instinct rather than intention. At this point, attraction has moved past curiosity and entered something more physical, more grounded. For many people over 60, this stage can feel surprising, even quietly confusing. Desire at this age no longer rushes forward. It settles into the body slowly with weight and presence. In ordinary life, this moment appears in subtle ways: watching someone stand up from a chair and adjust their balance, noticing the rhythm of her steps while walking through a grocery store aisle, seeing how she shifts her weight while talking, comfortable in her body rather than performing for attention. These movements are rarely conscious, yet they speak clearly. A relaxed waist and hips reflect ease, a body that trusts itself, a person who feels at home where she is. Men aren't looking for shape the way they once did in their younger years. By now they understand that bodies change, age leaves its marks, and perfection is an illusion. What draws attention instead is movement. The way she carries herself, whether her body flows naturally or holds tension, whether she seems grounded or guarded. These cues register deeply because they signal something essential. Whether desire would feel safe to inhabit. For men who have lived long enough to know loss, illness, and physical vulnerability, this matters more than it ever did before. Desire is no longer about conquest. It's about resonance, a biological response that feels slow, steady, and sincere. At this level, attraction is no longer a thought. It's a sensation, a heaviness in the chest, a quiet pull that doesn't need explanation. Many women underestimate this entirely. There's a belief that attractiveness after 60 comes from effort, control, or trying to reclaim something from the past. Yet what often holds attention is the opposite: comfort in one's body. Acceptance, a sense of ease that says, I am not fighting myself anymore. That energy is deeply compelling because it invites desire without demanding anything. If this feels familiar to you, or if you've noticed how comfort in your body has changed the way people respond to you over time, share your thoughts in the comments. Your experience may help someone else feel less alone in theirs. The gaze doesn't stay fixed for long. It begins to widen, stepping back from individual details, as if searching for a fuller picture that brings everything it has noticed into one quiet understanding. Thing number 5. Overall silhouette attention no longer moves in pieces. After passing through hands, expression, lips, and movement, the gaze pulls back and settles on the whole picture. This is the moment many women never notice because it doesn't feel intense or obvious. It feels calm, almost reflective. Yet this is often where attraction completes its shift into something deeper and more lasting. In everyday life, this happens quietly, standing together near the front door, coats already on, neither person quite ready to leave, sitting across the room while others talk, simply watching how she exists in the space. Or noticing her from a distance at a family gathering, the way she stands, moves, pauses, and re-enters conversation. The silhouette captures what individual details cannot. It shows how she occupies space, how comfortable she feels being seen, how much effort she uses to hold herself together. For men later in life, this matters more than they often realize themselves. By 60 and beyond, attraction is no longer built on intensity alone. It's shaped by experience, by relationships that demanded too much, by years of responsibility, compromise, and sometimes emotional exhaustion. The silhouette tells him whether being near her would feel heavy or peaceful, whether her presence feels tense or settled, whether connection would drain energy or quietly restore it. A relaxed silhouette suggests openness without neediness. A grounded posture signals self-trust. A body that isn't shrinking or bracing communicates something powerful. Comfort with one's own presence. Men respond to this not with urgency but with recognition. A feeling that doesn't rush forward but settles in slowly, like something familiar returning after a long absence. Many women believe attraction depends on being noticed in parts, a feature, a shape, a detail. Yet at this stage of life, the opposite often proves true. What holds attention is wholeness, the sense that nothing is being performed, defended, or hidden. The silhouette reflects the sum of everything that came before. The emotional tone, the physical ease, the quiet confidence that comes from having lived. This is where desire changes form. It no longer pushes, it listens. It doesn't scan or evaluate. It recognizes, and that recognition doesn't fade quickly because it isn't tied to a moment. It's tied to how someone feels to be around. Beauty may catch the eye for a moment, but what keeps the gaze lingering is something quieter and far more enduring. It's the presence of a woman who isn't bracing herself, who isn't performing, who isn't trying to be more than she already is. No tension, no effort to impress, just a calm way of being. When a man looks at you in these ways, he isn't only feeling attraction, he's sensing whether his nervous system can rest there, whether being close would feel safe instead of demanding, whether your presence allows him to soften rather than stay guarded. After 60, desire still exists, but it no longer leads the way. What holds a man near is peace, The ease of sitting beside someone who feels real, grounded, and emotionally open. If this reflection resonated with you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Beyond 60 Stories. This space is here for honest conversations about love, presence, and connection in the years that matter most.